Welcome, Tribe. Friday morning. So you want to know what the best workout split is for calisthenics? Well, today we're going to dissect our favorite all-time workout split that we're using currently that's delivering insane results. We're also going to answer a few questions that have come in from our online movement mastermind. All that and more coming up right after this. We are the gym that teaches people how to move instead of just exercise, because we believe that health is about performance, not just body image. We're back. And I'm here with Rad, as usual. I'm back, more importantly. I had a bit of a doctor's appointment yesterday. And we are going to dive headfirst into this. But first of all, before we do, how are you feeling?
Yeah, good. Yep.
Yeah.
I've been sick all week, so I've been feeling like shit in that respect. But I've achieved a lot this week. We've had 15 new members join our online coaching program, which is unreal. So welcome
new tribe members.
All of our new tribe members.
Yep.
And people are loving it. We just we had another 5-star review. And I just feel pumped. So good. It's really good.
How good was the review from the doctor?
Yeah. Yeah,
I can't remember your name. I'm sorry. Inga.
Yeah, we had a review from a doctor, a medical professional and a triathlete, and she was raving about my physiology and anatomy knowledge and the way that I can explain it. So thank you, Inga. That's really nice of you to say. Means a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. He's been working very hard to become more articulate. Anyway, guys, keep crushing it. End of our first big testing week for 2019. I almost forgot the year.
Yeah, me too.
And it's been a big week. Like, I saw the guys today doing their deadlift testing, and it's exciting. I can't wait to dive into this next program phase. And
especially because we're only doing 2 weeks of hypertrophy and 2 weeks of strength in the next mesocycle. 2 weeks of
hypertrophy, 2 weeks of strength.
That'll be good. Anyway, let's move on to our topic, huh? Let's
absolutely. So we had a really cool question. I think it was Chris. Can you just flick over to the questions tab up there, Richie? Because I would like to give him a shout out because it's a good question. No, the third one. Yep, that's it. What's the top question? Is it Chris?
Yeah.
I know what it is. I know what it is. Yeah, I just need his name. Chris, thank you very much for the question. What's his surname?
Jones.
Chris Jones, shout out to you. He's asking us what our favourite workout split, or what our workout split looks like that we do. This has come from our YouTube subscribers, tribe of YouTube subscribers. So Rad, why don't you explain this? Because Rad was actually the one that moved us to our latest 6-day workout split. Richard and I have come from a more sort of, I guess, bodybuilding training background where it was like, upper body, lower body, or chest and back, or you'd sort of split chest and then biceps together is a very common 4-day split, back and triceps, quads and hamstrings. There's all these different ways of doing it for traditional weightlifting and strength training. But when you bring calisthenics into the mix, you've got different types of strength that you're developing. You're now developing what's referred to as straight arm strength, which is really scapular control drills. Think handstands, levers, planche progressions, things like that, and bent arm strength. They're now different, and it creates, if you let it get to you, a little bit more complexity. Explain to us how you've simplified it.
Well, wasn't that a journey? Because trying to convince you and Richard with your bodybuilding background that we were going to be changing the split was that was a massive feat from me.
We love training calves every day, says Richard behind the camera.
Yeah, Yanni and Richard with their bodybuilding background, it was very hard for me to convince them of this, but I forced them to do it, and the results are showing. So where it comes from, I mean, because in all honesty, the way that when Yanni was describing it there, I guess the way that I'd say it is, as soon as you start doing calisthenics, there's so much more to do that you can't train that traditional way of doing, back and chest or body parts like that, because you miss out on movements. And so the first thing I guess to say is we're not training body parts, we're training movement when you're looking at calisthenics and gymnastics, strengthening the foundation movement system,
which I sort of, now that I'm a little bit more savvy, think everyone should be doing anay.
But
we won't digress.
You should be. We believe that you should be focusing on movement, and as always, we're not nutritionists, so take everything that we say with a grain of salt. But
I'm going to say that every time now.
I
folks.
am, and only the
nutrition
hardcore,
disclaimer.
only the hardcore that have been with us since the start are going to get
The other
it.
question is, would we have a better split if we were on a plant-based diet?
That's the other one. The other one. Is Kalisha out there?
I think she's somewhere out there.
Richard, can you just help this gentleman, please? Sorry,
Sorry, guys. We have a big glass panel next to the studio, so we can see the reception of our gym.
Yeah. So
someone's just walked in.
So the reason why we do this is because as soon as you go into gymnastics and calisthenics, you have to start looking at straight arm strength. And it's actually, to be more specific, it's called straight arm scapular strength because it refers to movements that train the muscles that connect to the scapula. And so when you lock the elbow out, you're not doing any, you're taking out any of the muscles that control the elbow, which is what we refer to as bent arm strength, and you start doing all the movements that train muscles that connect to the scapula. And it's I wouldn't even say I believe it's a superior way. I'd say I believe it's an essential way of doing things. There are different ways to do it. You can definitely do it differently. There's different ways that gymnastics coaches make their split, but it's my favorite split. I think it's the way that you can get the most things done, because when you talk about bent arm strength, you start doing anything that involves bending the elbow for the upper body. So you can go into like horizontal push-pull and vertical push-pull patterns that we do, but then we also incorporate gymnastics rings movement on bent arm strength days, like muscle-ups, which aren't a vertical or horizontal push or pull because they're a bit of everything. But that becomes a bent arm strength movement because you're bending your elbow when you do those movements.
Yep.
And things like forward rolls and backwards rolls on the gymnastics rings, again, they're not a horizontal push-pull or a vertical push-pull, but they're a bent arm strength movement. You bend your arm when you do it. And then the straight arm movements are the ones that, I mean, there's so many you can do, but the ones that we work on for beginners are, we work towards a planche, a tuck planche at first and then towards a straddle planche, and a front lever, or a tuck front lever first and then a full front lever, and also handstands. Those are the three big movements we do, but we do handstands every day. Handstands doesn't come into one of our split. Handstands comes into skill work for us, so we do that before any of our strength training. And then lower body, we do lower body and core. Even though we do core every day, we do more core work on the lower body days. And lower body, we just split into a squat day and a deadlift day.
Yep.
So in a nutshell, that's how we do. Oh, and one last thing is, when you do it this way, you can train 6 days a week and you can do everything twice a week. And I genuinely believe, with the research that we've done on ourselves for years now, I genuinely believe that if you don't do things twice a week, you do not get enough volume to be able to make significant enough gains in it.
Yep.
We tried,
particularly once you're a well-trained individual, and
as a beginner you can.
As a beginner,
you definitely can.
You don't need to, but once you've got a few years of training age, so training age is the sort of hypothetical scenario where you've been training properly on a decent level of intensity and volume on a good, well-designed, smart program, capitalizing on super compensation, which I'll talk a bit about again in a sec. Then every year that you do that, you get 1 year of training age, and usually from like 2 or 3 years onward, you got to train more than you got to train the same body part more than twice a week to get really optimal gains. Now,
for a beginner though, I should say this, and Yanni agrees with me 100%. A beginner could actually do half of what we do.
Yeah.
A beginner could do one bent arm day, one lower body day, and one straight arm day, and for a little while.
There's a caveat to that though, and if anyone who's read Mark Rippetoe's Starting Strength, you'll remember he talks about the fact that beginners should practice complex movement patterns on like a minimum of 3 times a week. I don't know if you remember that. Yep. He speaks specifically about the squat.
I can't remember the author of the gymnastics book that we're reading right now, but he says the same thing. He talks about just complex movements.
And the reason for that is because when you're training for strength, guys, there's a whole different, there's I think about 6 different areas of the body systems that are actually developing, and that makes up this colloquial term that we call strength. You're improving the actual ability to fire the right sequence of muscles. Because I'm not a scientist, I can't give you the terms that are used to name these, you also train the body's ability to create muscle contraction. There are different systems in the body where agonist muscles fire and they have to restrict or what do you call it? Literally restrict the opposing muscle group from firing at the same time, because you can't have a joint fighting itself. It's called an inhibitor, a muscular inhibitor. And so there's all these different levels of thing occurring, and one of them is just intramuscular coordination, where your muscles are learning to coordinate all the sequencing, the synapses that are firing, the action potentials that are coming from the brain to stimulate the myofibrillar contraction, I think it's called. We're not scientists, we're personal trainers.
And we're not nutritionists.
But there are a whole different level of things that are occurring when you are developing strength. And as a beginner, I've digressed a little bit here, but as a beginner, the more practice, the better. Like, you need to, especially with complex movement patterns. But what Rad's referring to is the intensity, like the fatigue management is super important for a beginner, because of course you become fatigued a lot more. You get a lot more delayed onset muscle soreness because the muscles haven't adapted to the stimulus just yet, and you're more susceptible. Like, the supercompensation effect is much more drawn out. And we spoke about supercompensation not yesterday, the day before, so that would have been on Wednesday. Supercompensation is the concept of you have your current state of strength and skill, you train, and you actually have a decline in strength and skill, strength for a little while, and then you have this recovery curve that actually ends up curving above the original level of strength. And that curve above the original level of strength is called supercompensation. And what your program is designed to do is capitalize on that by re-stimulating here before your strength drops back down to the base level again. And that's what we do with our 6-day split. So we train bent arm strength on Monday, then Tuesday, Wednesday we don't train it, then Thursday we train it again on day 3, which is arguably 2 to 3 days is the optimal point of supercompensation.
Yeah,
so we re-target that.
Most strength coaches that we've read, the leaders in the industry and people that we've trained with, people like Mark Rippetoe and Tony Battaggi and Charles Poliquin, Ida Portal, even for me, these guys, they all agree that it takes the body about 48 to 72 hours to recover a particular muscle group. So there's lots of different ways to do your splits, but the way that we do it is it gives you 72 hours rest before you train it again. Yep. And when we do that, the way that we train, I feel very good when I'm training the same muscle group again. I don't feel like I've got DOMS anymore. Yep. I feel like I've had a good amount of rest. And yeah, when we did it differently, because we didn't do that, we only went to this 6-day split recently, and we did it after trialing many different splits for a long time, and we did 5-day splits for a long time. And the reason why we moved to a 6-day split, in all honesty, is I want to be really, really good at what I do, and I didn't believe that doing 5 days a week was enough.
Well, it's not. And
you couldn't fit everything that we do in twice a week.
Yeah, I've trained with a lot of really great strength coaches. Sebastian Orub from Australian Strength Coach, we used to train together, and I used to train with his brother Cameron Orub. And these guys are into sort of bodybuilding and powerlifting, but very different to what we do. But they both train 6-day splits. Because the thing is, think about the concept of this. We've just dissected the fact that and confirmed the fact that you need 2 to 3 days to optimally catch the supercompensation effect. Now, if we were to train straight arm strength on Wednesday and then not train it again on Saturday, it would be 7 days before we train straight arm strength again. Or if you were to take the full weekend off, then you would have one of those workouts would be going way more than the 3 days of ideal time to capitalize on supercompensation. So you'd be missing out on that effect basically. And it's just the better way to do it, we think, and it certainly has produced the best results for us. So I know it's a big thing to get your head around. Oh my God, I have to train on Saturdays. All the best guys are doing it, guys.
It just depends on how good you want to be. And if you don't want to train on Saturdays and you only want to train, like what I do is in deload week, I usually don't train on Saturday. So I give myself that week to just have a nice weekend with my family.
Yep. This deload week I hardly train, but that's another story. I've had something going on.
Yeah, but it's the split that's delivering the best results for us. It's sustainable. We're not sore all the time from it.
Yeah.
It's stimulating. It's fun, and man, is it producing results.
Yeah. So just very quickly before, let's go deep into what it looks like. Because we do slightly different things. My 6-day split, I do the bent arm strength with Rad and Richie on Mondays. Tuesday I prioritize squatting. And I do a lot of hamstring work, and then I do some single leg, like split squats, step ups, things like that, pistol squats. Wednesday I do the straight arm exactly the same, but on Tuesday's squat day I also use as a supplementary some sort of a deadlift, whether it's a Romanian deadlift or a sumo stance deadlift or a single leg deadlift or even a standing barbell good morning or a seated barbell good morning. I'm doing a hip hinge or hip bend movement as a supplementary. Then on Friday, when I do my deadlift day, I do some form of squat as a supplementary, whether it's a front squat, back squat, high bar, low bar back squat, split squat. There's definitely some form of a squat there as a supplementary. So I'm still getting 2 squat sessions in every week and arguably 2 deadlift sessions in every week. And I like to prioritize that because I do want to do lots of lower body as well. What does your split look like?
Yeah, it's very similar to yours, except the only difference is because I'm rehabilitating a torn meniscus. When I do my lower body days, I'm not going anywhere near maximal strength. I got up to 110 kilo squat for reps in the last phase, but my best is 170 kilo back squat.
Yep.
So I'm not going anywhere near my max strength, and I've just started to lift heavier weight. And then the only other thing that I would probably say, I guess, is with the bent arm strength, a massive consideration for our program writing is that we always do vertical push-pull first, mainly because of chin-ups. Because chin-ups are a movement that you just cannot perform when you're fatigued well. So if you do your horizontal push-pull first, then your chin-ups are just going to be rubbish by the time you do them. So we do vertical push-pull first, and when we're doing calisthenics as well, the vertical push is some form of a handstand push-up, which again, if you're fatigued, is just going to be rubbish. Whereas the horizontal push-pull movements that you do, of course they're going to suffer because you've done vertical push-pull, and you're going to be a bit weaker when you do it, but there's always considerations like that when you do your programming. And then the only other thing that we do is if we're doing gymnastics rings in the current mesocycle, we do that first.
Yep.
Gymnastics rings come first because they're the hardest.
They're very, very neurologically demanding.
Yeah, so we put that first.
And that's the thing. When one of the most important concepts to understand when you're developing strength is the intramuscular coordination factor, and that requires the nervous system to be fresh, and it requires you to practice perfectly. There's a saying, practice makes perfect, but Rad's always saying to our members here, perfect practice makes perfect, because for intramuscular coordination to be optimized so that you're really learning the movements, and this is so much more important. It is still very important with weightlifting, but so much more important with calisthenics. Then you've got to do those skill-based movements first. And that's been a big learning curve for us as well, because we wanted to prioritize the big bang for your buck strength training movements at the start while our nervous systems were fresh, but by the end of it we couldn't do handstands, or we couldn't do ring sequences, or we couldn't do anything else, So it's something that's very, very well worth considering. How are we going for time?
I've only got a couple of minutes left.
Have we got any questions to answer?
Well, I was going to say one last thing about the consideration
for a split. Is there anyone on the live chat?
We do have some questions from the Movement Mastermind, but we'll just answer them straight to the group. That's fine. So the last thing is that when you do straight arm strength, you have to start really, really understanding the way that the shoulder works so that you understand pushing and pulling movements. So just as an example, a good way for a beginner split for straight arm strength is to pair a planche or a tuck planche progression with a lever or a tuck lever progression, because the planche is a pushing movement where you're trying to protract the scapula and the shoulder is trying to go into flexion, whereas, which is, you know, they're both ways of pushing.
Yep.
Whereas the lever is a pulling movement because you're trying to pull the scapula into depression and retraction whilst pulling the shoulder, the humerus, the arms down into extension, into shoulder extension. So that's a way of looking at straight arm strength as push-pull, and you definitely need to do that. You need to be balancing your body. Structural balance is without a doubt one of the most misunderstood things by novices in the gym, and one of the main reasons, if not the main reason, for injury.
Yeah, absolutely. Long-term injury. Quick
So,
shout out to, I think I'm going to stuff your name up, Giuliano.
No, I think it's Giuliano.
Giuliano
Raso.
Raso, Dorian Gray, for joining us, mate. Thank you.
So, yeah, if you don't understand, structural balance is a big thing. It took me a lot of years as a juvenile personal trainer to understand how to do structural balance, and our bodies suffered for it. You know, our bodies suffered. You know, you had really bad problems with your body because you were the classic, you know, bench press and biceps guy in the gym. You didn't understand how to balance your upper body and how to do lower body movements, and I certainly didn't either. You know, with so many years of kung fu, it's all in front of the body, and everything you're doing is pushing and doing. There was very little pulling involved in it.
Yeah. I went really deep with my structural balance coaching because I believe that structural balance should also be catered for someone's environment. And so if you're sitting in a chair all day long, you should be prioritizing movements that reverse the chair adaptation. If you're someone who works on a computer all day, then you should be doing structural balance movements, prioritizing programming that opens you up, because you're sitting in a sort of somewhat kyphotic position. And I made a very lucrative business as a personal trainer out of specializing in that, because it really, really helped people. People got a great result. So I think that structural balance is something that is a very, very important talking point, and something that people need to understand.
Yeah, and something that it takes a lot of work to understand. If you don't understand it, the best thing to do is join us for our online coaching program. And if you are not sure about that, if you're not ready for it, you're going to get an amazing taster next week if you want to, where we're giving away the Mobility Masterclass and a whole bunch of other things.
When does that go live? When does it go live?
Well, that'll go live on Monday, I think.
On Monday, yeah. 7 days, guys. You have 7 days. We're giving away a phenomenal offer where we're bundling a bunch of our digital products together with the first 6 weeks of online coaching, the Foundations program, Strength program. It is no commitment. You don't have to stay on. Of course, full disclosure, we want you to. We want to try and wow you with so much value and win your respect so that you do stay on. But yeah, make sure that you're on our mailing list. If you haven't already done so, download the Ultimate Isometric Strength Formula. You can click on the Start Here button on our YouTube channel, or I will link it. I already have linked it in the description of this video. Every video that goes out next week will have it linked, because if you're not on the mailing list, you're not going to get the email invite to grab this offer, and it's ridiculous. It's like $750 of value for $75.
Of our programs for $75.
And really what we're trying to do, guys, is get out there that we are a legit online training program. We have a gym here, and it's all there's nothing shady going on. We are legit just trying to change people's perception on the fitness industry. We want people to move better, feel better, and look better as a result, not the other way around. Anyway,
yeah, that's it. And that's all we got time for. So thanks for joining us today. We will see you next week. It's Friday in Australia, so we'll see you next week. And look out for that offer. It's it'll change your life if you jump on it.
It's going to be a big show on Monday, because we're going to be plugging the crap out of it. Full disclosure. Take care, guys. Have an awesome weekend. Great training for all of you in the Movement Mastermind tribe. Get your testing finished today, and we will see you soon. We are the gym that teaches people how to move instead of just exercise, because we believe that health is about performance, not just body image.